Hello, good morning and good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm the moderator for today's masterclass. Uh, for our session, this is our session number 23rd in our series. And the topic for today's masterclass is top financial use cases for intelligent document processing. And we have with us our speaker, a masterclass expert, John Salick. He's a strategic AR advisor and a subject matter expert at Emagia Corporation. John, we would be delighted to have you begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay, and welcome everyone. We've got a very interesting topic for you today, and we'll get right into it. It's intelligent document processing. So introduce it to you, define it a bit more precisely, and then we'll go to what we call use cases. All right, if IDP is so great, where's it being used? Well, we've chosen 6 financial operations where IDP has been deployed to great success. And we'll talk about the benefits, which will be obvious as we describe the use cases. Share with you a customer success story, wrap it up with a conclusion, and then answer any questions you might have. All right. I start off by posing a few rhetorical questions here. And the first one is one that always plagued me in my 40 plus years working in finance. You're always taking care of the day-to-day, but what are you doing to conduct some higher level analysis that will lead hopefully to improvements in your operations, improvement in the company? Is there never enough time? Is speed of customer response a critical success factor? Is productivity an important part of your profitability and competitiveness? Well, I think we can safely answer those questions, yes. And if so, then intelligent document processing, IDP, is for you. And just to kind of set the stage a little bit, what does IDP, what does it address? Well, first of all, when we think of financial documents that are used in financial operations, and when I say documents, I don't only mean paper, hard copy documents, but also any soft copy forms, emails, images, things like that. But when you think of all the financial documents that swirl around in the office, they're numerous, a wide variation in format. They're complex. They're very detailed because they are conveying a lot of information and unstructured. The data extraction is difficult, takes some time consuming. It is time consuming, and quite honestly, takes some experience. And certainly if you use paper documents through your financial operations, it's going to slow down the process. But intelligent document processing can overcome most of these challenges. I recently read an estimate that 80% of financial data arrives in an unstructured form. I mean, contrast that with the Internal Revenue Service. When they get their tax returns, that information's in a very structured form. It's in the form they specify. And you have to fill out the blanks, fill out the form, and present that data in a way that is pretty much the same for almost everyone who files. And as a result, believe it or not, they're able to automate the review of many of those tax returns, particularly the short form, simple tax returns. But that's the IRS. That's not what most of us see in our day-to-day work. All right, so we get this data unstructured. What's the big deal? Well, when you dissect the operation, What are the key tasks? Well, first of all, you have to understand the context of the document. Is it a invoice from a supplier that has to be paid? Is it remittance advice from a customer that accompanies their payment, telling you how to apply the payment? I mean, what's the context? And then you have to extract only the required data, but also all the required data to process it further. And that holds true even for handwritten forms, the dreaded handwritten form. So, that introduces some difficulty and some error. And then you need to combine the context with the data and then route to the next step in the process. Now, historically, given the wide variation and these 4 key tasks, it basically was up to human beings and human intelligence to cope with this wide variation. But that's changed. IDP automates the handling of this unstructured data. So that's a big breakthrough. That's big news. All right. So let's define a little more precisely what is IDP. Essentially, it extracts and converts unstructured data into a usable format, which is then used in the next step in processing that data. So it kind of sets the table for the further operations. As I mentioned earlier, it extracts all the required information and only the required data. The technology, probably names, labels, acronyms you've heard before: artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, and RPA, robotic processing. It's a combination of that. And yet, it's not just the convergence of the technologies. It's the technologies converging with a much greater understanding of the capabilities of these technologies and how they can be best used in real world financial operations. So essential to the IDP is the source documents scanned, the data is extracted, documents are digitally stored, and of course the data is available to users anywhere in the world 24/7. And at the end of the day, IDP, which uses cognitive artificial intelligence data extraction, is better than having human beings do it. It's faster, cheaper, and minimizes human error, eliminates human error, and goes far beyond what RPA can do in its ability to work effectively with unknown document formats. And interestingly, IDP accommodates multiple languages and currencies. Most people, particularly here in the US, don't accommodate multiple languages and currencies. And it delivers substantial improvements in speed, accuracy, and productivity. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So it's really an accelerator of the first step of most financial operation processes. All right, that's the overview. Let's get into some specific examples. We talk about claims from customers, also known as deductions, also known as short pays, also known as chargebacks. Basically, when a customer pays less than the full amount of the invoice. So where does IDP come into play? Well, it's the first step. It extracts the required data to process and resolve a deduction from its source. And what is that source? Well, it can handle a lot of different sources. A customer's vendor portal, your own EIPP portal. Customer visits your EIPP portal, makes a payment, pays short, includes the remit advice, hopefully includes some reason as to why they paid short. So IDP extracts this key data from multiple sources, the remit advice in all different forms, emails, debit memos, and it automatically creates the deductions to be routed for resolution. So that's the first step. Now, one of the best practices in deduction resolution is to provide the resolver, who is the person who has to research and resolve the deduction, complete information. And IDP can do that. And what is the key data on a deduction? Well, there's a number of data elements. I've listed a few of them here. Identify the customer, the invoice, how much they paid, how much they paid short. Reason code is important. If there's some indication on the vendor portal or the remit advice or other information provided by the customer as to why they took a short pay, that's very, very valuable. Because again, best practice in deduction resolution is to route the deduction to the resolver based on the reason code. So, quick example, if the customer short pays because they say, you charged me sales tax. I'm tax exempt. I don't pay sales tax. Well, that resolution should probably go to somebody in the tax department who has access to the required information to quickly determine if the customer was right or wrong. So that's where the reason code comes in real handy. So IDP extracts all this data for every deduction, arrays it in a CSV or other file format, and feeds it downstream for the next step in the resolution and clearing of that deduction. A couple of the other features here: unique record for every deduction, stores the images, and in conjunction with a digital assistant at Emagia, the digital assistant is named Gia, whose picture is on the side of this page here, can execute the automatic small balance write-off. So if a customer pays $950 on a $960 invoice and you're okay with it, you just write off the $10 and consider the invoice paid in full and closed. So that's an important role IDP plays in deductions. It's the first step and the important first step, and it's automated. Don't need a human being to do it. Okay, so that's deductions. Let's look on the other side of the shop, so to speak. Accounts payable, supplier invoices. Supplier invoices come in, again, various ways: soft copy, some hard copy, via a customer portal that you visit, EDI, email, postal mail, and IDP extracts the data required to approve the invoice for payment and to pay it. And again, there's probably 15, 20 data elements needed to approve and pay an invoice. Clearly, the vendor name, the PO number is critical, invoice number and value, due date, things like that. And again, it's arrayed, all this data for every vendor invoice. The 15 to 20 data elements are arrayed in a neat CSV file and then fed into your AP system. Again, with a digital assistant, can also retrieve the applicable receiving document and PO. So then you've got your three-way match. You've got the vendor invoice, you've got proof that the product was received, and you've got your purchase order, which proves that you ordered it in that quantity and that price. So again, we're talking about the first step, handling masses of supplier invoices to get it up and running. And then the downstream processes can, one, get started, and two, proceed quickly and efficiently. Same themes here with order processing, and I've talked to a number of clients and, including an individual who managed the order management practice at a large consulting firm. And what she said is, no matter how big the company, how technologically advanced the company is, unless you only have a few major customers, you're still going to end up selling to smaller, less technology-oriented companies, and you're going to get orders in the mail, via fax, email, as well as EDI and other electronic means. And you know, these days, nobody wants to turn down an order, so you got to be ready to handle that. And even if orders coming in via fax or the post office are a small percentage of your total orders, they may still be a significant absolute number. So boom, we get an order, we want to fill it, we want to fill it accurately, we want to fill it quickly. There's essential data we need to get. And here again, IDP extracts that data from whatever format the order comes in on, puts it in the file, which is then fed into the order fulfillment system, which is, you know, basically your ERP. And here again, it automatically extracts the data required to accept and fulfill an order. I've listed a few of those data elements here. Again, it's probably in the 15 to 20 element range for every item. Who's the customer? What's their PO number? What are they ordering? Stock keeping unit or item number, price, all that stuff. Again, it establishes a unique record for every individual order, takes all this order data, puts it in a neat file, boom, into your ERP to start the fulfillment process. Cash application. This is one of the premier uses of intelligent document processing, because when you think of Cash App, the major challenge and the major task is to find out where and how the customer wants you to apply their payment. I mean, receiving the payment is easy. Your bank takes care of that. The challenge comes in is, where do we apply this payment? And the customers, in the vast majority of cases, will tell you where. You just need to access that information. And again, it comes from all sorts of different sources. Customer vendor portal, your own EIPP portal, remittance advice that comes in all different formats, an Excel spreadsheet, PDF, TIFF file, GIF file, images from the bank statements, lockbox images, lockbox data files, EDI 820. I mean, a host of different formats. And IDP can handle them all. And with the machine learning, gets better at it. So gets to learn by individual customer how they present this data. Again, extracts that data, populates a file, which can then be just run through your AutoCash engine and used to apply the cash. And what we've seen is hit rates, AutoCash hit rates in the 85 to 95% range, which is excellent. Part of that success is having the remit data in an easy to use, clear format that's kind of synced up with the AutoCash logic. And then boom, it runs right through. Where else? Well, credit control. You know, this list can go on. I'm sure if we were to give this webinar 6 months from now, instead of the 6 major applications, probably 12 major applications. But here's another one, credit control. Think about credit control. Starts with a credit application. Credit application provides the information needed to do a credit investigation, credit vetting, as they say. A lot of information is required. So here again, IDP extracts that information from the credit app. And again, a host of individual data elements, company's legal name, the address, tax ID, and these come in various forms: fax, email, mail, electronically. And again, combined with a digital assistant, can automatically check and verify the business license, that the company has a license. Is it on the OFAC, prohibited export list? Can even import credit bureau data and everything and other data elements to really set the table for that credit manager or credit analyst to make an evaluation. Is this customer creditworthy? And if so, how creditworthy, and what's the credit limit going to be? And nicely, it establishes an electronic credit file for every individual customer, which is critical. And you can have the data arrayed in whatever format you want that facilitates the review. So here again, a mass of incoming data that's automatically extracted and put in a usable format for the next processing steps. Combine it with a digital assistant, which will perform a number of those next steps, and you've really picked up the productivity and the speed. The last one we're going to talk about, I've labeled Treasury. And there's a lot of operations in Treasury. The one I picked here is bank statements, bank reconciliations. Make sure the general ledger cash accounts agree with the bank statements. There's no discrepancies. And you need a lot of data to do that, particularly if it's a high volume operation. And here again, IDP can get that data from lockbox images, data files, different formats, different file names, bank statements, then retrieve the data from your own check register and general ledger, pick up any bank fees, can reconcile the two, highlight any discrepancies. That's your bank rec. And of course, store digital images of all the documents. So you can see the familiar pattern here, right? It's extracting data. Don't want to demean this, but it's busy work in many respects, and certainly tasks that people would prefer not to do, and want to get on with the downstream tasks, which more interesting and certainly have more impact. So those were 6 use cases. Benefits, mentioned them as we went, but really compared to a totally manual data extraction environment, the productivity can increase tremendously. And so will the morale, because again, data extraction is kind of a dull job and not very exciting. And if you can redeploy the time those people spend on data extraction to the downstream processes, or to analysis, or to formulating ideas to improve operations, they're going to find the job much more interesting. They're going to enjoy it more. And it's going to improve morale, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Of course, we get increased accuracy as we eliminate human error. The overall quality of the operation improves, and those operations that are customer facing, you'll get a faster response to the customers. So if you look at the chain down below, you react faster to the customers, you improve the customer experience, you improve your productivity, reduce your cost. It all, over time, adds up to higher revenue and higher profit. Quick case study. This was a global medical products company with a fairly complex environment here. 45 countries, 15 languages, 16 bank accounts. So a lot of moving parts here. And they simultaneously brought back in-house a shared service operation that they had outsourced. And while they were doing that, they embarked on a digital OTC transformation. So, hats off. That's a busy, busy time. Um, but an integral part of this digital OTC transformation was to automate the data extraction, all these financial documents. Think of a global shared service center. Think about how many financial documents in all forms flow into that shared service center. So the two early implementations were one, cash application, which uh, probably wouldn't be hard to guess. And the global order cash hit rate increased from 30 to 70%. Tremendous increase. But also that 70% hit rate when you're operating in 15 languages, 16 bank accounts, 45 countries is actually impressive. If you're just in the US and you're dealing with two banks, one language, one currency, you can hit 90% auto cash or higher. But in this environment, the 70% is a good performance. And then the deductions with getting that critical first step done fast and accurately and completely uh, cut the resolution time from several weeks to 1 week. So quickly, the conclusion, intelligent document processing is being used today. It's not a system of the future. It's delivering productivity of 70 to 90% when compared to a purely manual operation. We talked about speeding the response to customers and improving the accuracy. Your questions.
Thank you very much, John. That was a great presentation and session for us today. Thank you very much for bringing all those enlightening data points for us on the IDP. So before we begin the session, I would like to invite all the participants to post your questions that you might have on the chat window, and we'll take those questions. I have a few questions for you, John, coming in. So the first is about the challenges, right? I mean, what are the major challenges in processing financial documents?
Well, it comes back to a theme that I broached early and often. It's just the wide variety in the formats and the information conveyed in financial documents, combined with their huge quantity. That variety, inconsistency, what we call unstructured documents, is the major challenge. And up till now, it's required human intelligence to solve, and quite honestly, a number of months on the job before somebody really got proficient. So that's the major challenge.
Thank you. The next question is, what are the major advancements that you have seen in document processing?
Well, you can go way back to scanning. That was a big one, um, believe it or not. But that was just putting documents in a better form, easier to handle form, particularly for uh, people working on it on a global basis in different time zones and things like that. But IDP is really the next big one, because now you've got the software reading the documents, extracting the data instead of human beings. And that has a huge productivity potential.
Thank you, John. I think the next question is more pertaining to the product in here, GIA. The question is, does GIA have the ability to attach supporting documents to the individual deduction line items?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And, that's the detail and the precision that's required to run a good operation. So that's another advantage here.
Thank you, John. I think we're just getting to the top of the hour. One last question that we'll take. The question is, in addition to dramatically increased productivity, are there other benefits of IDP?
There are. The faster response time in customer-facing operations is critical, as well as the improvement in accuracy by eliminating human error.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. We are already on top of the hour. I would like to thank all the participants. I do see that there is another question that we have got. I do see from Victoria. I know we're going to take this question, okay, because Victoria was the
Sure,
first one joining
sure,
the session.
absolutely.
The question is, does SAP use Emagia? Is it possible to install it internally here in the organization? And so she wants to know more about the tool. So yeah, good job.
Yes, it is possible to implement selected modules of Emagia, or all the modules of Emagia that manage accounts receivable. And SAP, as the ERP and the single source of the truth, so to speak, the system of record, is the data repository. Emagia will extract information, process it, and return it back to the ERP. So yes, it complements SAP very well, and is a specialist application. So almost by definition, it should be better than the SAP accounts receivable applications.
Thank you very much, John. And then Victoria, I know your question is very valid. I'll have somebody connect with you, kind of give you more details about it as well. So what you can also do is that you can post any other questions that you might have, all of you out there. We thank you for joining us today. And for the questions that you might have as part of this session, you could reach out to us at info@emagia.com. We'll be more than happy to respond to your questions and get connected with you. And we would also like to see if you could join us for another interesting masterclass. The next one is going to be on 29th of July at 10 a.m. Pacific. And the topic for our next masterclass is how intelligent document processing, IDP, is driving AR and AP productivity. So that's going to be another interesting one. So we all look forward to it, John.
All right, thank you, Akshay. Yes, we'll continuation on the theme here, on the IDP theme, because it is such an important step forward.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us today. And thanks a lot, John. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. So long, everyone. Thanks for joining.